What up? What up? Happy Tuesday. Yep, it's Tuesday. It's been a long weekend, Mother's Day, a lot of good things going on, but we are kicking off this week's Grit and Grind show with Rebecca Rouse of the Tampa Bay Brigade. She's going to tell us her backstory. We're going to get a recap of last season from her perspective, and we're going to talk this season. It's going to be here in a matter of 11 days. May 24th is when the United Grid League kicks off in Miami. We'll talk about all that. But before Rebecca joins us, we got to plug the best sponsors in the game, the Mental Game Performance Coaching, whether it's sports, mindset, health, nutrition, or just life in general. The Mental Game's got you covered. Jesus One Apparel, empowering men, women, and children to follow the message of John 16:33. Chinook Seeds, whether you're on the field or in the boardroom signing deals, Chinook helps you get the job done. 8 flavors, mild to wild. Go to your local gas station, convenience store, grocery store. Go to the snack aisle and pick up, boom, best seeds in the game. A little Parmesan and pepper. I'm in that kick right now. And then finally, Old Dominick Distillery. Experience 150 years of tradition in the heart of downtown Memphis. From bourbon to vodka, whiskey to gin, Old Dominick's got you covered. Stop in today for a tour or just to pick up your favorite bottle. And with that, the sponsors have been plugged. I can keep the lights on and the air on and keep doing what I love to do. But with that, let's bring on to the show Tampa Bay Brigade star Rebecca Rouse. Rebecca, what is up? How are we doing today?
Doing great. How are you doing?
I'm great. I tell everybody when they ask me, when my feet hit the ground in the morning, I'm blessed. And so it's got to be a good day, right? I'm able to move and groove. So I'm happy to have you on, and I'm happy to talk some grid. I got to get into it. I do a little bit of research prior to every guest coming on, and you have quite the extensive background of things that you do, and I'm not really 100% sure what it is that you do because you do so much. You're a weightlifter, tactical strength and conditioning coach, entrepreneur, speaker, founder of MCHN Strength, professional, United Grid League player. How do you balance the travel, the training, the speaking, the weightlifting, all of those things? An entrepreneur, a business owner, how do you balance all that and still be able to play and participate in the sport of grid?
Wow, when you say it like that, it kind of makes me think wow, I really do a lot, but the main reason that I think it's all manageable, I think 2 things. One is just being extremely organized. I'm a very type A, hyper-focused, organized, color-coded calendar type of person. So that helps me a lot. I wouldn't be able to do it without that. And number 2 is getting a lot of sleep, because being well rested and waking up every day, almost every day with a full night's rest allows me that mental clarity and that physical stamina to be able to show up and do all the things that I do. So shout out to good night's rest, because highly underutilized for many people. And it's just a non-negotiable to be a high level competitive athlete and to run a business and do all the things that I do. If I was not mentally rested and recovered and physically recovered, my body and brain would not hold up for all the tasks that I have on my plate every day.
What's crazy is you talk to people all the time, and the first thing they're like, yeah, I'm going to sink a lot of money into the best recovery supplements and this and that and eating right. But then their sleep patterns are just shit. And It's that's the one thing I think that really makes such a huge difference. And I say that even though I don't do that. How is it do you prioritize sleep? Is that how you are able to make sure this is important to me? In order for me to be the best person that I can be, I got to have this? Or are there days where you just sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't? I don't prioritize it, and I think that's a problem.
It is arguably most days it's the number 1 priority. I build my schedule around making sure that I get 8 hours, sometimes 9 of sleep, because the amount of training that I do, the amount of obligations that I have, the amount of people depending on me, and I just can't do it without being well rested. So that's number 1 is making sure I have that 9-hour window to be in bed. If I'm in bed for 8.5, 9, I'm asleep for at least 8. And that's what I need to function optimally. So it starts with that, and everything else gets plugged in around that. So I don't go out on the weekends. I don't schedule things at night. I make sure that I have that adequate time blocked off in my schedule to get the sleep that I need. Otherwise, everything else would crumble.
Man, I got to do better. That's all I can say is like I sit around and I think about, I start scrolling, I start doing things on the computer, I start jumping into, shows, and then before you know it, it's 11 o'clock, and then I'm waking up again at 6, and Jess says, "Don't have a kid." You're absolutely right. I got two of them, and those jokers are the greatest thing on earth, Rebecca. But they require a lot of time and attention, and it's tough. But you make it a priority, and it pays off because you are high level and you are optimal. Usually, from every time I've seen you perform, you're either breaking records or crushing it on the grid. So shout out to you for what you do. But tell me a little bit about the other things that you do. I looked through social media and I saw that you were doing. It was almost like a technical training, and I don't even know if you are a part of any like job that requires that training, or if you were just doing it because you were invited to do it. To me, it seemed like you were invited to participate and see what it's like. And they were like, "Oh, by the way, you can get pepper sprayed and you get all these things going with it." And you're like, "Sure, I'll do that." Like, what is wrong with you? Like,
I mean, fair question. I ask myself that often. So does my husband. But no, so that I am not in law enforcement. I'm not a first responder, but I do a lot of work with that population. That's my certification is in tactical strength conditioning. So over the last couple of years, I've kind of moved away from working with general population strength conditioning and focus more on tactical population. So that's law enforcement, firefighters, EMS, military. And it helps me do my job better as an officer wellness instructor or a tactical strength conditioning coach when I have the best understanding of the job that they have to do. So what are they putting their bodies through? What did they have to do on the day-to-day job? What gear do they have to carry? What are they wearing? All the different demands that go into being a first responder or a military member. Having that firsthand experience helps me better cater to them when I do the work that I do. So I have a connection here in Texas with the Texas Tactical Police Officers Association. I'm an officer wellness instructor for them. And the regional director for where I live, he invited me to attend basic SWAT, which was a 5-day course back in March. And so I don't need that course necessarily to do the job that I do, but going through it helped me get that firsthand experience of what it is that they have to do for their training, because you can only learn so much from a textbook. So I knew there'd be a lot of physical training. I knew there'd be weapons. I knew there'd be gas chamber, all the different things that they have to do as SWAT operators. So I was like, yeah, let's go. Let's put myself through that so that I can get that firsthand experience of what they have to do so that I can do my job better.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, it's a tough question to answer when someone says, "Well, you don't know what it's like." If you truly don't know what it's like,
Yeah,
you're right. And so you're putting yourself in the position where you might not entirely know what it's like, but you have a good indication because you're in it and you're trying it and you're practicing it and you're out in the field just trying to get a glimpse of what a day-to-day looks like. Because you're right, you can't program effectively for people if you don't know what the intensity or what it even feels like. So no, shout
absolutely.
out to you, because like that's a step far beyond what I think I could do, is taking some pepper spray and going through all that. But I'm sure there's a lot of a benefit and a reward that comes from that kind of work. Obviously, the founder of MCHN Strength. What is that all about?
Yeah, Machine Strength is our online fitness company where we work exclusively online. Now we're starting to get into doing some in-person seminars and things. So we have an online platform for strength conditioning, nutrition tracking, kind of full holistic fitness and wellness for both general population and tactical. We're growing quickly. And so we just joined forces. I started a company in 2020, and then we just joined forces with another business to become Machine Strength. So we've rebranded just a couple months ago. And now we're out there doing in-person seminars. I'm speaking at conferences, working with law enforcement, working with firefighters, and doing a little bit of in-person as well as online.
Nice. I mean, just traveling, doing your thing. I mean, when you were, I guess, going through college, and I know you got a couple of degrees, is this what you pictured yourself doing?
No, not at all. I got my degrees in public health and Spanish. And I mean, my Spanish comes in handy every now and then, and I have worked really hard to maintain my fluency, but the public health is not really what I'm doing. I do, yes, work in health and fitness, but public health and individual health are completely different. So I really am not doing anything with my public health degree, but I started working as a personal trainer right after I graduated college while my husband was going through some military training. And it was kind of like, in my eyes, a temporary thing, because I knew we'd be moving around every year or two for the early years of us being together after college. And so I got a job as a personal trainer and thought that would be like a temporary thing while he went through his 1 year of training for the Marine Corps. And then we would move again. And then I just absolutely fell in love with fitness. I was on my own fitness journey, and then I got the experience of helping other people on their fitness journeys. And that's really what sealed the deal for me. And then here I am 10 years later, still helping people with their health and fitness, and who I help has changed over the years, but my mission is largely the same.
That's awesome. And that's a good segue to where I want to go is, obviously everybody has a special fitness journey that is, unique to them. I don't think you woke up one day and all of a sudden just said, let's do weightlifting, let's do grid, let's do tactical strength and conditioning. Like, how does the fitness journey start? When and where did you start developing, all right, I like being in the gym, I like working out, I like this feeling? Was it through sport, or was it just a something you chose on your own?
For me, it goes all the way back to when I was a young kid. I started gymnastics when I was 3, and I started competing in gymnastics when I was 7, and I did that all the way up until I was about 15. And so I really got my start in sport from a super young age, and that competitive drive, that desire to always be better, and especially with a sport like gymnastics where you're being judged literally by a panel of judges that are taking notes, making deductions, watching your routine, and the goal is perfection. Like, that's, everyone knows in gymnastics, perfect 10 is what we're striving for. And then you have a panel of judges that are marking off things that you aren't doing perfectly. And then you get your score at the end. So from a young age, and I didn't really know or appreciate this until I was much older, but that mental programming of always striving for perfection really influenced who I was as a kid, and then inevitably into adulthood. And that constant drive to be better, to do more, to push harder, that really carried me all through, both in the gym and academically, just through from childhood all the way into adulthood. And so I stopped gymnastics when I was 15. It's kind of like that pivotal moment for a lot of young gymnasts where, like, are you going to try to go to the Olympics, become an elite level athlete, or are you going to have a normal life? And for me, I decided to focus on academics, go to college, do all that. And I was not quite good enough to be a collegiate gymnast or an elite level gymnast. So I decided to step away from the sport, going into high school, focus on academics. And then in college is when I found the weight room. And back then, this was 2009, when I started college, there were not a lot of women lifting weights. So it was kind of an anomaly. I think I could count on one hand how many other women were in the college weight room at the time. Happy to see that that's no longer the case. There's a lot more women lifting weights, but back then it was not common. And so I started my weight training journey back in college in 2009, started doing more of the bodybuilding type stuff. And then after college, got into more of the functional kettlebells. And then I found Olympic weightlifting in 2018. And that kind of sparked the dormant flame for competition again. So I didn't compete in anything sport-wise from age 15 until 27. And then when I was 27, I did my first, actually technically 28, I did my first Olympic weightlifting meet. And then that kind of set me on the trajectory to where I am now with weightlifting and grid.
I mean, I bet it did. I saw the results of that, and it was pretty good. Like, it's easy to go, hey, I like this because I'm pretty damn good at it. What is, you just broke, or you were the top weightlifter in Texas, top 3 in the nation, I believe. Like, what is, like, when you start training, is that the goal? When you start going, I like this, let me compete in this, or does that just kind of come by, I'm getting stronger and I need to just see where I'm at, so let me try this, and then the results are not like, not like you're not thrown off by the results, but like you put in a lot of hard work, but the results were just kind of like a bonus of the training and what you were doing, throughout the course of the weeks.
Yeah, when I started off, I had already built a good foundation of strength just from many years of both gymnastics and training and in the gym and whatever. So when I started Olympic lifting, I didn't think I was that good because my technique was lacking so much. So while I had the strength, generally speaking, I didn't have the strength in that particular sport. So being strong, being able to deadlift or squat a lot of weight, and being able to clean and jerk and snatch a lot of weight are very different. Like the technicalities of the sport of weightlifting, there's a big learning curve. And so it took me a couple of years to really get my footing and to get my technique in the Olympic lifts to really match what my baseline of strength it was. And once that happened, it was really around 2021. That's when I moved to Texas. That's when I started working with the coach I'm working with now and have been for the last 4 years. That's when everything kind of started to come together. And so I did 2 competitions in weightlifting prior to moving here. I did okay in both of them, but they were both local meets, and I really didn't know how I measured up at anything beyond local because that's the only things I had done up until then. And then came here in 2021. Then a year later, I qualified for my first nationals, went to Texas State, and then I started getting out more into like the competition world in this new sport. And I realized that I was actually competitive. And so in 2022, I did my first nationals, and I think I placed 8th. And then in 23, I placed 6th. I believe. And then in 24, I was on the podium. I got 3rd.
Nice.
For my weight class.
It's, to me, I think there is a learning curve in a lot of different sports. I think gymnastics, does, however, provide this stable balance, and like you're very aware of how your body moves. And I think it's one of the few sports where you have mobility, flexibility, and stability because you built this foundation upon those 3 things.
Yes.
And then strength comes because you're just able to move your body in so many different ways and so many different spaces. Like, yes, the technical and there's some complexities of weightlifting, but I can see how someone with your background can get into it and go, I can get really good at this just because those 3 foundational things, mobility, flexibility, and stability. Like, a lot of people don't generally get into weightlifting and already have those unless you have some type of background. So obviously you're excelling at that. And, not only that, you're excelling in the United Grid League. Talk to me about how you get involved with Grid. Is it something that you pursued? Did someone pursue you and go, hey, you should check this out? Or like, how do you find out about the United Grid League?
Jess slid into my DMs like she so commonly does, and she's still good at it. And it was, I think, March of last year. And I saw her message, and it said something like, hey, we're looking for a female strength specialist for the Tampa Bay, or for, I don't even know if she said what the team was, but she said, we're looking for a female strength specialist. Have you ever thought about playing Grid? And I get a lot of DMs every day. I delete most of them. A lot of solicitations for sponsorships and you name it. And so I literally had my finger like over the delete button, and I almost pressed it, and I didn't. And I was like, let me sit on this for a second. And I just let it sit in my inbox for I think it was about 2 weeks. And then finally, I think it was like 2 days before what I learned later was the cutoff to add players to the team. I replied and I was like, okay, tell me more about this. And she sent me all the information. I asked her a gazillion questions. She was so patient with all my questions. And I had like 24 hours to submit as many videos as I could get for the different events or the different races and elements and stuff. And I knew nothing about it. So I got as much as I could on film, sent it to her. And then I think the next day, because they were like, rushing to get to right before the cutoff for adding players for jersey sponsor or jersey orders and all the things. So I sent her what I could. And then 24 hours later, she's like, okay, we want you on the team. So I was like, cool, what do I do next? And then there we went.
And when was that?
That was like April 1st. It was, I joined the team the day she announced that she was pregnant, which is how I remember, because it was April 1st and she announced it on April Fool's Day, and I was signing all my paperwork and I was like, wait a minute, now she's pregnant. What's going on? So it was a lot, but
she hid that from you. She says, thank you for not deleting me, obviously.
I love that she's watching this live.
She's a big fan. I appreciate Jess. She does a lot. You didn't hit delete, and you find out like you had like you submitted these things just in the nick of time, almost like it was almost meant to be, like this is something that you should do. Do you have like, are you an athlete that believes in that, like that higher spiritual where like, yeah, like this is meant to be because of these reasons?
Yeah, I definitely feel that way. I mean, and the way things have unfolded and just the team that I ended up on. And, I didn't know anything about the league. I didn't know any of the other teams. And so yeah, I feel like it was meant to happen. And that's why I'm back for a year too.
Well, let's get into that last year. Obviously, being your first year, and you are going, okay, what is what am I getting myself into? Take me through the first moment on the grid where you're running out there and you're having to perform something. Was it what you anticipated? Was it different, or was it kind of like, I think I can do this. I don't really know.
I did not know what to expect. And any of my teammates that were there last year can tell you how confused I was by all the moving parts. The movements that I was assigned to do, that was the easy part. Everything else was so confusing as far as the rules and the subs and the moving this way and that way and tagging and all the stuff. I didn't really feel like I had a good grasp on that until maybe match 2, maybe even 3, because there's rules I still don't even understand, and then they keep changing them. So I'm that person. I'm like, just tell me what to do. I'll do it. I'm good to go. I don't want to know all the things I don't need to know. So, but yeah, that first match was an exhilarating feeling running out onto the grid. This was my first time ever playing a team sport. I've been an athlete most of my life, but never played a team sport. So that alone was wildly different than anything I was used to. And just having that energy of other people and just the camaraderie and the competition and the energy and the music. I mean, if you've ever been to a weightlifting meet, it's almost radio silent. People are very focused, very in the zone, very to themselves. And there's not a lot of people talking to each other in the back. It's just like everyone's in the focused mode. So everything about grid is complete antithesis to what I was used to from both gymnastics and weightlifting. So I had no expectations, but everything that happened exceeded my expectations, and it was so foreign and so fun. So I was just loving it.
Yeah. So how many matches did it take, or have you felt like you are pretty comfortable and you know what's going on? The rules are pretty much what they are, and you're pretty comfortable in the sport.
I'd say it took me almost the whole season. The sub rules still confuse me. I'm not going to lie. That's why when they're trying to figure out who to put in and why this person can't be in this race because they have to sub, I'm like, I don't understand it. Whatever. Just tell me what to do.
I'm gonna go lift this barbell. Y'all figure that out.
Pretty much. When I see the things that go into deciding the match assignments, and so I'm just like, God bless the coaches and managers and everyone who makes these decisions, because it's a lot.
Yeah,
and there's so many options.
Like, and that's the thing. Like, I've seen the rule book, and the rule book, I mean, it's a pretty standard rule book, but like when you're in the moment is when it gets hard, because you're having to do it so quickly, and you have to think in a sport like grid where everything happens so fast. You're having to make coaching decisions even faster, because typically, like, I come from a baseball background, and from a decision standpoint, it's very slow based. Like, you have time to think, and you have like different options, and you can weigh them out on what you need, or what the scenario or the situation will dictate what you need to do. But in grid, like, you have to think of those situations way before they happen. That way, when you get there, you've already made the decision and you're not behind, because, a lack of decision or a slow decision, or, anything that is not in the moment, like on point, like can hinder you and can hurt you. And that's I think the beauty and the tough part about, grid as a sport is, much like gymnastics, there's a fine line of winning and losing, so to speak. In gymnastics, your score, every little thing that is not perfect is a deduction. And in grid, every little thing that's not perfect can slow you down and make efficiency almost, impossible. And so that's the difference between winning a race and losing a race sometimes, is that efficiency. But
True.
For you manage through the season. You get into the last regular season match against the Palms. You guys don't win it, but the point differential didn't matter, and you guys went into the playoffs. When you think about the season, as you start? Were playoffs even a thought to you, or was there like a goal of like, yeah, I'd like to go to the playoffs, or was it strictly, I just want to figure this sport out and like figure out what I need to do?
I think both. I think, of course, as a team, like we want to win. If you're not aiming to be the best and striving for that championship at the end of the season, like what are you even there for, right? Every team wants to win, and I think that showed for us every single practice, every single time we got together. The drive to be better, to correct mistakes, and to continue to get faster, more precise with everything that we were doing was evident. And I think we did make a lot of progression throughout the season. So on an individual level for myself, like, yeah, I was trying to learn the sport, learn the rules, learn the movements. And thankfully, because I have a really good foundation for strength, for mobility, for, the movements that I was assigned to do, my practice was not necessarily the movements. It was more just being faster, like faster transitions. That was completely new for me, moving from thing to thing with speed and efficiency and just the moving parts in general. That was what I needed to work the most on. So doing the pistol squats, doing the snatches, the weights that we're using on the grid are very submaximal for what I'm used to from weightlifting. And the gymnastics stuff I can do in my sleep because I've been doing it since I was 3. So it was the movements that really were like, not in a back seat, but that's what I needed to spend the least amount of time on. And it was everything else that I needed to spend the most amount of time on. And my teammates were really, really helpful and supportive in helping me learn that so that I could make fewer mistakes each match as possible. And then, but yeah, as a team, obviously we're all as individuals identifying our weaknesses, working on getting faster, working on getting more consistent, and then putting it all together so that we could bring the complete package to every match throughout the season and eventually to the playoffs.
I think you might sell yourself short, because I think that, and this is just what I've heard, is like you can do things that you've never done before and they just seem easy. I'll give you an instance. The only person that she knows that can do a 50-pound pistol thruster without even trying, just like, yeah, I can do that. Are you sure? Yeah, no problem. Let me see it. Boom.
I'll figure
Knocks
it
out. Yeah. And like, I will say, like, for you and being, so in tune with weightlifting, when you go to grid, is it tough to know, like, speed is like sometimes like you don't have that whole, I get to set up and do my routine like in weightlifting, as opposed to in grid, I have to go out there and I just got to grab it and go. Is it tough to like transition from one sport to the other to do that? Or you still go, no, I'm going to like do everything I can in a faster version to like get myself set up and ready to lift a heavy weight? Because I can see, like, from a weightlifting standpoint, you're very good at it and you don't want to injure yourself. And obviously from a grid standpoint, you want to be fast, but I'm sure like there's a fine line for you as far as what's too fast and what's unsafe.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think that kind of going back to what I just said a second ago is because the weights are 50%, 60% of what I'm lifting when I'm on the platform, there is room for error. So if the weights that we're lifting on the grid in snatch and clean or any of the mirrors or anything like that, if those were close to a person's max, there's less room for error when it comes to your hand placement or the technicalities. And so that could get real dicey real quick. But that's why I'm very thankful that I had a really good foundation for strength. And because my lifts on the platform are, double what I'm lifting on the grid, or, 1.5 what I'm lifting on the grid, I don't feel as nervous about having my hands be slightly off center, or I don't make good hip contact or something like that, because I can move that weight with ease, more or less. And so I think there's just a lot to be said for being strong and being technical, but now I can not throw away some of the things that I know, but like they're not as important because the weight is, 50, 60% of my 1 rep max.
Was it tough going, all right, I know like I'm going to have to do this movement, and then I have to lift the barbell? Is it tough like in a race where you're like, I'm doing, multiple movements and then getting a feel for, because, you're right. A lot of these weights are submaximal, but they might feel heavier just because of what you've had to do
Sure.
prior to that lift. Was that a transition for you?
Absolutely. That was probably in addition to the second to the moving parts and all the different things that are happening in a very short period of time, that was probably the other most difficult thing for me, was just the conditioning aspect. And as everyone who's a weightlifter, strongman competitor is very used to doing 1 to 5 reps and then taking a seat and resting and then doing that again. But on the grid, it's obviously not like that. So that was something I had to work on as well, which is why I started doing a little bit more CrossFit in the off season, or starting CrossFit in the off season, so that I could maintain, because I realized from the beginning of the season, and Jess can tell you this too, like my conditioning was awful. And because of all I had done for 6 years prior was weightlifting. And then by the end of the season, I didn't even realize it was happening, but then it happened and I was like, whoa, I'm actually kind of fit. And I mean, not even close to high level CrossFit fit, but I was much fitter cardiovascularly, and my work capacity was much greater than it was at the beginning of the season. And so I wanted to maintain some level of that, so that starting season 2, I wouldn't be back to where I was at the beginning of season 1. And so I started to do some more Metcon type training, go to CrossFit once or twice a week to maintain that conditioning, because for races like Triad, we need that. And so I'm happy that even in the off season and then coming back to camp, when was that? April, like a month ago, I was able to I'm doing 4 out of the 5 elements in Triad, and I was okay. I can handle all of it, no problem. So that was something I've really been intentional about improving and maintaining in the off seasons going into season 2.
I was going to say, from an athlete standpoint, what is it that you, at the end of last season to now, like what have you been working on for grid? And it just seems like obviously the strength part, because you're weightlifting and you want to be stronger in that regard, but it seems like that aerobic capacity to be able to move faster, but also being able to have that ability to do certain movements and then lift a barbell with the same, ease, I would say, as you would feel as if you were not doing those other movements and just doing some weightlifting. But is there anything else for this upcoming season that you've been working on specifically just for grid?
Not really. In the off season, I've still been sticking to my weightlifting with my coach. I went from 5 days a week to 3. And then so I could add in 1 to 2 days of CrossFit, which I was a little worried about, but I'm actually getting stronger somehow. So that's actually worked out really well. My numbers on the platform, increasing in training, and then I'm going to compete again soon. We'll see how that goes. But, and then 1 to 2 days a week of more Metcon CrossFit type style workout, so I can work on my conditioning. But as far as grid specific movements, I kind of wait until, because I feel pretty confident with most of the stuff I'm assigned, I can jump in, with a little bit of training, just shake off the cobwebs and I'm good to go. So I think some of that is because I've been doing so many of these movements, and 1, because I've maintained my mobility throughout my life, and 2, because I've been doing some of these movements since I was a kid. And so they're kind of just ingrained into that physiological memory that I have. And so I don't necessarily need to like train it a ton, and I still have it. So I'm going to get better at it. I'm going to refine it, get faster at it. But I usually wait till I get my assignments, and then I work really hard on those before the match.
What is the conversation like when you go to your coach and you go, look here, we're cutting back, and guess what? I'm going to throw some CrossFit in there. What do you think about that? Like, what is that conversation like? Seems like it's a supportive one. Obviously the coach is like, all right, well, let's do what you want to do. But also my job is to get you better for the goal that you hired me for. So what is that conversation like? And is it a easy conversation, or was it a pulling teeth type conversation?
It was not an easy conversation. My coach, his birthday's tomorrow. He'll be turning 78. And so he's very old school. And he has coached a couple Olympians, and he's very used to people who want to make weightlifting their whole life, because that's what it takes to become an Olympic level athlete. And when I started working with him in 2021, I had no clue where I would be going with my weightlifting career. Obviously I think it's gone further definitely than I thought it would. I don't know what expectations he had for me. We never really talked about it. It was more like, what do you want to do with the sport? And he's long since retired. He was a firefighter for 33 years, retired, and just now coaches weightlifting for fun because he loves the sport. So I think deep down probably wants it to be my number 1 priority. But when I started doing a lot more public speaking, more traveling, getting really into my business, I told him probably a year or 2 ago, like, I just need you to know that weightlifting is not my number 1 priority. I I do take the sport seriously. It is a priority, but it's not my number one priority. And he understood. But then when grid came around, I was like, how am I going to explain this to a nearly 80-year-old man, what the sport is, what it's going to require of me? And so he wasn't thrilled about it last season. But the season itself is not that long. And this season it's even shorter. So like the amount of time I'm spending on it, I was able to do it like, after my weightlifting workouts. Plus you want to kind of train grid when you're fatigued anyway, because that's what you're going to be doing when you're on the grid. So I was able to fit it in. It was almost like a don't ask, don't tell. Like I would do my grid things. I didn't really talk to him about it unless it was going to interfere specifically with like a training session or something else, or I was traveling. Obviously he needed to know that, but it was very, very separate. So then this season, when I told him I wanted to drop from 5 to 3, I think he's at this point kind of used to me just doing my thing. I'm traveling. Sometimes I miss training with him for several weeks at a time because of the schedule and traveling. So he's just kind of going with the flow. I don't know how much longer he'll be coaching just because he is approaching 80 years old. And so we'll see what happens. I've told him that both weightlifting, grid, everything, like it's my hobby. It's not paying my bills. It's not how I make my living. It's something that I do for fun, and that goes for both sports. So it is what it is.
Yeah, as long as you can continue to have the fun with it, because I think what a lot of people, even professional athletes that I work with, I have to talk to them a lot about, you have to get back to what you got into the sport for, and it had nothing to do with winning, losing. It was because it was fun.
Yep.
Like if you really lose sight of that, you're going to have a really tough time. Then things start magnifying. Then you're going to start getting in your own head about performance and putting pressure that's really unneeded. You just got to go back to having fun, and especially with things like you said that, they're not your priority. They are a priority, but not the number one priority. So getting into 2025 season, you've got basically 11 days. Are you ready?
Me personally, my team, I guess the answer is both yes. I think we're ready. I feel ready. I feel great. I'm super excited. After seeing our team all together, most of our team together at our team camp last month, I'd say we were in a great position at the end of last season. I think we're in an even stronger position this season. We've got a full roster. We've got some new exciting talent, and I think we're gonna be crushing it.
What can the other teams expect from the 2025 version of the Brigade?
Bigger, better, faster, stronger compared to last year. I mean, I think most people doubted us. They kind of wrote us off at the beginning of last season because we were very heavy on rookies. And now people know who we are. Our rookies are now sophomores, and we have some new people who are extremely strong. I think that was probably what we were missing the most last season was strength. And so a lot of the people that we brought on are strong. We're going to be a lot better this year in terms of some of those strength elements. So we're coming for it.
So basically, everybody, Rebecca's saying, get your seatbelt, buckle up, fans, get your popcorn, and get ready because it's going to be a show when the Brigade are out there. May 24th, Miami-Dade County Fair and Exposition at the Miami International Fitness Expo. The Brigade have a match with the Palms. And I have since learned this, that according to the Palms, and I say according to the Palms because this is who I heard this from, the Brigade have not beaten the Palms. And I think that is not, like drama worthy, but it is something that you put on the bulletin board or you put in the back of your mind and go, okay, we got this. But you lost to them in the regular season. You made it to the playoffs, but knowing like this is an important match to set the tone for the season. You guys are ready. You guys are pumped. I'm looking forward to it. I think you guys are going to be the first match of the week. Yep. So it's an early one. Are you going to be ready? Can you get the body ready to move early? I mean, I see you got cold plunge, you got saunas, you got all the stuff necessary. You got your sleep tape, you got your eye mask, you got your whatever. I mean, all I got is Koya protein. Drink Koya. got a promo code MOREKOI15. It'll save you 15% on all that Koya products. I got the cacao bean, and it's delicious, absolutely delicious. But you're ready, you're primed. I wish you the best of luck. Stay healthy, stay happy, have a lot of fun with it, because I mean, at the end of the day, if it's not fun, then what are we doing?
What are we doing? That's what it's all about. And that's one thing that's one of the big reasons that brought me back for a year too with the Brigade. And a couple people asked me, like, are you going to go to the Texas team? Because I live in Texas. Like, now we have a Houston team. It's like, no, I want to continue. I want to finish what we started, and the Brigade just have so much fun. We are a big family. Our group chat is a comedy show and a half. And it's a big family, and we have a great time together. So it's that infectious energy that everybody's having fun. We look forward to being together. We look forward to each practice each week. That's what got me back for a year too. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I know that, not one for stirring shit, but here we go. Jess says, taking a playoff spot from them was better than beating them last year. So true. I would agree with that. I mean, I'd rather be in the playoffs than win, but it is what it is. It's going to be another chance for you guys to show what you got on the 24th. And to be honest, last year doesn't matter. It's about this year. All that stuff is in the past. You got to prove it. And, I'm looking forward to seeing that. But Rebecca, before you bounce out of here, any sponsors, anybody you need to plug or promote before you get out?
Yeah, my sponsors, Jocko Fuel. They've been my sponsor for several years now. Primal Beef, Dream Recovery. Primal Beef gives me the highest quality grass-fed beef. Love it. Make it every day. And then Dream Recovery, they provide my eye masks and mouth tape that you just mentioned. They just came out with their nasal strips as well. So looking forward to having them all on my team throughout the season. They'll be on my jersey. Excited to represent them.
Yep. Well-fed and well-rested. That is Rebecca Rouse, everybody. If you like hearing Rebecca's story, or you just like hearing Average Joe's talk X's and O's, please share the podcast on Facebook. Head over to YouTube, click click subscribe, click notifications. That way you're one of the first to know when new content is being dropped. We have a special edition. I will be joining forces with the Gridlock podcast tonight at 9, live on YouTube. Cassie Martinez, Byram, myself, Roberto, we're all going to be doing this thing. We're going to be breaking down week 1. We're going to be talking mad shit. We're going to be slanging it. We're going to be doing it up. We hope y'all come in, check us out, be engaging, talk shit, do what you do best. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that tonight, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. So with that, that's all I got for the week. I've got power rankings out there for preseason on YouTube. Check that out. And I will be back next week. Got a good one next week. I'll be plugging and promoting all that. But until then, as always, remember, strong bodies, sharp minds, grit and grind all the time. We are out.